Well, hey guys, it's Dr. Drake 63 here today, and I'm going to talk about for what many is an emotional topic, and that is comparing the 1911 in 45 ACP to the Glock, typically in 9mm. This one is 19 in 9mm. Now, I've made comparisons of the Colts that I've owned in videos past, and talked about them oftentimes in relationship to the Glock. And for purposes of this video, when I use the term Glock, I'm not brand bouncing or anything of that nature. What I'm really talking about is a polymer, modern striker-fired handgun that was derived, as all of them were, from this, which is the Browning High Power, okay? They all use the same tilt barrel type of design. The fire control group is different, but everything else about them is basically this guy right here, only using, thank you, only using modern materials, which is polymer. The title of my video is 1911 versus Glock because I'm that bored. Why do I say that? Well, I'm sitting here in April 2020, and depending on when you're watching this, that might be distant history or it might be real recent history. But as you know, the world has basically come to a standstill because of the COVID-19 virus. I'm bored. I'm not going to the shooting range. I'm not getting the opportunity to do a lot of the things I like to do with the firearm sports, as well as other things in my life. So I figured this is as good a time as any to make a video about this controversial topic. The 1911 and 45 ACP versus the Glock, or any modern polymer handgun for that matter. I could be talking about an HK, I could be talking about a Smith & Wesson, I could be talking about a SIG, I could be talking about a CZ, you name it. Okay, so let's just establish that. Well, I guess because I'm bored, I found myself in a rare debate with somebody on the internet about the 1911 versus the Glock, and their statement was that the 1911 is a relevant platform in today's law enforcement and military communities. And they cited the examples of, hey, some special forces guys still carry these, or some law enforcement agencies still allow their agents to carry them, FBI, SWAT, whatever, okay? And they're using that as their basis to say, well, that's because the 1911 is a better gun than the Glock. And I'm going to challenge that statement. I'm going to challenge it for a number of reasons, and we'll spell that out in this video. So, not here to provide clickbait, although I suspect that a lot of people are going to have to watch this just because of the title, so welcome if you've never tuned in before. And a lot of folks are going to say, man, this is beating a dead horse. And again, I'll go back to the title of this video because I'm bored. But I also think that there's some things that are logical, linear progression types of things that could be said, and I'm going to say them today. I welcome your comments. I hope I don't upset anybody. There's no question about it that the 1911 was, for its time and for a long time, an extremely innovative handgun, an extremely relevant and useful handgun. But there's been development in the last 109 years, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. Stay tuned. Now, of all the handguns you see before you, the most powerful one, without a doubt, is this guy right here. And this is a revolver. This one is a Smith & Wesson Model 19 in .357 Magnum. And this is the most powerful handgun that I have here. It holds 6 rounds. It's extremely relevant for hunting, for shooting. Yes, you can defend yourself with this firearm, but you're limited to 6 rounds until you reload. This is a Rossi, which is basically a Smith & Wesson copy. And this one, as you can see, is in 32 Smith & Wesson long, which is basically 32 ACP, and it's by far not the most powerful handgun up here, but it's Nice and handy, easy to stick in your vest pocket. So up until that time, besides some things like Lugers and some of the Mauser handguns, this guy right here, the Colt 1911, which is a John Browning design, was the deal. All of a sudden you had a more powerful caliber in 45 ACP. Does not compare to 357 Magnum, but you can fire this thing very quickly. You can reload it very quickly, and is a very reliable platform. You could obviously fire fast. And this held 7 rounds in the magazine. If you wanted to carry it cocked and locked, you had the ability to have 8. And by cocked and locked, that means you chamber around, and this is how you carry it right here. So when you draw this from your holster, at that point, you need to take off the safety and then you're ready to fire. The next progression in semi-automatic handguns was this guy right here. And this is the Browning High Power. This is a Belgium-made version from 1976, another firearm that I've talked about at length. And this firearm had a 13-round capacity, plus 1 in the pipe. And again, if you wanted to carry this one in battery, you needed to basically cock this back and engage this safety. So from that perspective, to shoot it, you needed to disengage the safety. And after this, and I've covered this in prior videos, all modern handguns were based off this design. Different trigger systems, different striker fire or double action, single action. This is single action only, just like the 1911. GLOCK comes along and invents something back in the late 80s going into the 90s and is using polymers for the frame. It's not an all plastic gun. Obviously the important parts, the barrel, the slide, things of that nature, were all metallic. But this does not have a safety. It has a very unique trigger style where you have to be very intentional to pull that trigger. And that's all you have to do. There's no safety or anything, so it's a very quick reaction type of firearm. It's incorporated things like flared mag wells and things so you can reload quickly. Now this is 15 rounds plus 1 in the chamber. And from a size comparison, a lot easier to carry this than, say, a 1911, just due to the slide length, the length of the grip. Probably my favorite firearm sitting on the table just to shoot and in admiration of its development is this High Power right here, by the way, guys. John Browning had his hands all over that design, but he did not design that and finish the design during his lifetime like he did with the 1911. But today, I want to talk about these two guns right here, the 1911 and this particular GLOCK. And we're going to take a look at it. Now, I'm big on looking at stuff based on facts, so the first thing we're going to do, with loaded magazine inserted, in this case this is a 7-round 45 ACP magazine. You can also get this with 8 rounds, same size magazine. You can get extensions, but your standard 1911 magazine is 7 rounds. So we're going to weigh that inserted, not with 1 in the chamber. And we're going to compare that to this GLOCK. This is a 15-round magazine, not going to have 1 in the chamber. And same scenario, you can get extended magazines for GLOCKs, so forth and so on. But let's take a look at the weights. So fully loaded, you're going to see that this GLOCK weighs 2 pounds, 11.15 ounces. So 16 pounds and an ounce, so this is about 2 3/4 pounds. The GLOCK weighs 1 pound, 15.1 ounces, so just about 2 pounds, okay? An ounce less than 2 pounds. So again, 1 pound, 15 ounces versus 2 pounds and 11 ounces. So what are we talking about? For 7 rounds of ammunition, 45 ACP, you're talking about 2 pounds, 11 ounces. For 15 rounds of 9mm, you're looking at 1 pound, 15 ounces. Well, that's quite a difference, in my opinion, in terms of what you get bang for your buck in terms of weight. So a fully loaded 1911 magazine weighs 7.7 ounces for 7 rounds. A fully loaded GLOCK magazine with 15 rounds weighs 9.5 ounces. One GLOCK magazine is heavier than one 1911 magazine. However, when you do the math and comparable round count, you're going to see that these are actually heavier and you have to change them out more often. Well, how big a deal is that? I'm going to suggest that if you're in the act of needing to reload during a gunfight, and let's hope that you wouldn't need to, but if you're in the act of needing to reload, you're going to need to reload after every 16 shots. And then after that first magazine, assuming you had a round in the chamber, every 15 shots. Here you're going to have to reload every 8 shots, and then after your first round, every 7 shots. Okay? So basically, you're going to need to reload twice as often with this 1911 than you would with this high-capacity polymer pistol. I'm going to suggest that if you're in a combat situation, not talking self-defense, but just looking at it from a military perspective, if you're in a combat situation, you want as much firepower on target as you can get. Because I guarantee you I can empty this magazine much faster than anybody on the planet can shoot 15 rounds through a 1911, including their reload. Now, I mentioned earlier that I got in a debate with somebody over the internet about the particulars of 1911 versus GLOCK. I had made the statement that with advances in firearms development, in terms of if you're in a military capacity, weight is an issue, and you want to be able to carry more ammo and less weight in your gun wherever you can, that there were some other factors that probably made modern polymer handguns more effective for military use. And we talked about capacity, things of that nature. Well, somebody came back and said, well, they've never heard of a dog chewing up their 1911. I've never heard of a dog chewing up a 1911 either, and I just kind of wonder, in the case of where they've showed pictures of a chewed up GLOCK, that, well, why are you letting your dog near your firearms to begin with? I don't know. But I thought that was an interesting analogy to use to say one gun platform's better than the other. So I decided to do a scientific test. Hey, Chloe, look. Look. You want to chew on that firearm? Huh? Yeah, not really. Maybe when she was a puppy. Now, Glocks come in all shapes and sizes, and you can also get a commander's version of the 1911 that's closer in size to this. So I'm not going to really get into comparing the dimensional specifications of these firearms. But I just wanted to point out that in the purposes of this comparison, you are talking about a smaller package. And obviously, as we've already determined, it's a lighter package. The other thing that I really like about modern firearms is no need for this grip safety. Here you basically got two safeties involved with a 1911. Now, I've never had any issues firing a 1911. I've never had problems with a grip safety. I don't think they're a necessary feature, but John Browning did when he designed them, and they continue to have them. But I really like the fact for the ability to quickly draw and get a gun on target and start firing, the advantages you get with these modern polymers. Some other things, obviously, yes, you have a rail here for a light system or things of that nature, and You can certainly get a 1911 with a modified frame that allows for the same thing. There's such thing as railed 1911s. So that's not necessarily a benefit for a Glock compared to a 1911. I don't know too many people who are going to tell you that a Glock is a cooler looking gun than a nice 1911 like this Colt. I certainly don't think so. However, when you look at it from the standpoint of a tool, and as I mentioned in my video, Glock, The Ugly Truth, you'll see that these things really don't matter if you're trying to defend yourself or if you find yourself in a firefight. So despite the aesthetics of one versus the other, you have to really wonder. I also had made the comment, which several people took offense to, that in World War II in particular, having an effective weapon that you could mass produce quickly and cheaply was of paramount importance. Well, if the United States military would have had the ability to produce these in World War II instead of the labor intensive and the hand fitting and everything that went on with these in World War II, I'm pretty sure they would have gone with these. And I'm sure I'll get some arguments about that. But the fact is, every soldier could have probably been carrying a Glock, whereas every soldier did not get to carry a 1911. Is that important? You can decide for yourself. So I mentioned that the theme of this video was because I'm bored. And there's a good chance that some of you are pretty bored right about now. And I won't apologize for that. You could have turned this off at any time. But I like visiting this topic because it comes up all the time and I see so much misinformation. It drives me crazy. I'm somebody that reads about every war that's pretty much ever existed in terms of firearms use, in terms of battles, in terms of order of battle, in terms of why one side won a battle versus the other. And I'm also very interested in modern military doctrine and why do we buy the things that we buy and provide our soldiers with the weapon systems that we do. I'm very interested in that. I spend a lot of time reading that stuff. And when somebody comes out and just makes a statement like the dog will chew it up or the 1911's a way better firearm for military use than a Glock, there's no comparison, things like that, I'm typically going to go ahead and refute that if I have the time. So if you watch this video today and you're scratching your head and saying this guy's off his rocker, walnut and steel rules, 1911 all the way, plastic fantastics are crap, if that's the approach you're taking, that's fine. I understand that. There's a lot of that out there. I'm an older guy. I'm 56 as of the time of the making of this video. A lot of the younger guys, just because of my age, will just say something like, okay, boomer, or call me a FUD, because I do spend a lot of time shooting and talking about these types of firearms. I take my M1 Garand to the range. I shoot stuff like a 1937 Remington Model 81, things that they consider to be highly outdated because you can't readily slap a fat flashlight, a laser, or expensive optic on them. So I get a lot of that, and I know a lot of guys my age and older are going to take offense to me saying that the 1911 isn't as suitable for modern military warfare as it was in, say, 1911. But that's just one person's opinion. I've given you reasons, not the complete, lengthy, drawn-out video I could make. I could do an hour and a half on this if we wanted to get into ballistics, gel tests, and other things to back up my statements about 9mm modern 9mm ammunition being just about every bit as effective as 45 ACP ammunition that's made today. And again, I'm bringing you this information because I'm bored. I want to thank you for watching today. I hope everybody stays safe, stay healthy, and hopefully we'll see you on the firing range soon. This is Dr. Drake 63 saying so long.